So, shall we begin? It's a very beautiful description of love. The great unsatisfied godhead here could dwell. See, has no place, love has no place in our natures. We are so small. He has no home. But in her, he has found a home. In the reason? Vacant of the dwarf self's imprisoned air. The dwarf self is the ego. And he is without an ego. Because she was without the ego, because in her nature the small nature being is not there, therefore her mood could harbour his sublimer breath spiritual that can make all things divine. So this is the function of love, the transformative power. It's a sublimer breath spiritual that can change everything from the lowest to the highest, an expression of divinity, because the divine is present everywhere. It is covered by layers. The divine presence is covered often by layers of darkness and ego and ignorance. But in her, since this was not there, all experiences could become an expression of the divine. And this is what he says in the next line. For even her gulfs were secrecies of light. At once she was the stillness and the word, a continent of self-diffusing peace, an ocean of untrembling virgin fire. The strength, the silence of the gods were hers. In her he found a vastness like his own. His high, warm, subtle ether he refound and moved in her as in his natural home. In her he met his own eternity. For even her gulfs, we go back, her gulfs, the secret parts of the being we all have. We consider the gulfs to be the lower parts of our nature. There is the inconscious, there is subconscious, there is the lower vital. But in her, there was no impurity. Yes, she was one embodiment. Everything was hidden in that embodiment. And the so-called lower planes, which in us are lower planes, were also there. She has emerged out of the material unconsciousness, but they were not dark, they were secrecies of light. It's like folds of light. Apparently, she is physical, material, but in that physical being, in that so-called outward unconscious nature, the divine was there. It is there in us also. But we don't know it. We relate only to the surface being which has weakness, which has incompleteness, imperfection. But in her it was not there. So this is the difference between her and the rest of us. At once, she was the stillness and the word, as if all oppositions were joined in her. It's one of the aspects of the divine. It is something that is total, complete. Opposites are things that our mental being make. If there is darkness, there is no light. If there is movement, there is no stillness. But actually, in the supramental or in the divine world, everything is one. Diversity is one. So in her, the silence and the expression and the movement One did not cancel the other, both were there simultaneously. In the speech, there is the sense of absolute power, quiet. Speech is not something that is simply an outpouring of mental thoughts that words follow one after the other. Word is an expression of consciousness. And when the consciousness is absolutely strong and quiet, the word is a projection of that consciousness. It remains the same. So she was that consciousness, and she was the force that manifested the consciousness. These are the two aspects of Sri Aurobindo and the mother. He is the consciousness, she is the force that expresses that consciousness. A continent of self-diffusing peace. Continent in the sense that which contains, that which holds. It is something that is still, quiet, and yet it spreads out at the same time, simultaneously, expressing itself quietly and without any disturbance. There is movement, there is expression, there is no disturbance at all. An ocean of untrembling virgin fire. The sense of the vital life force often associated with water, and fire, flame, energy, movement, and yet undisturbed at the same time. It's so difficult for us to experience this, because where there is movement, we get carried away, we are swept away by the movement. But to find that inner quietude, while there is this expression of movement, and Mother speaks of this in many of her experiences, that inner quietude that is there, which does not cancel the expression of the work or the movement, or even whatever she did in all her activities. So many activities, and yet immobile within. So this is the sense of the undisturbed, pure, and therefore virgin fire. The strength, which is dynamic, which is active, manifesting the consciousness, and at the same time, the immobile state of inner communion. We feel that if I want to meditate, I have to sit still. We do. But can we meditate in the most active, dynamic work? This is what we are supposed to do. In her, he found, he is love, the God of love, a vastness like his own, because the whole universe is an expression of this divine projection of creative Ananda, that creative Ananda which is really love. Mother describes this in one of her talks. She says that it is described in our scriptures that the creative energy that has manifested itself in the universe is associated with delight, with Ananda. I would prefer to call it love, because it is out of this divine love that the divine has projected himself into a universe, even though the universe doesn't know him, even though the creatures in the universe doesn't bother with him, he is always there. It is out of that love, that compassion, that the universe seems to be sustained. The strength, the silence of the gods were hers. In her he found a vastness like his own. So there are no divisions, no oppositions, no two-nesses, because in our mental world everything has its opposite. Love is everything. And this is where, if we go back to some of Sri Aurobindo's experiences. For instance, his experience at the end of the Alipur jail, the divine presence, the divine love and compassion, the presence of the Supreme Friend, even in the assassins, in the thieves, even in the guards, even in the tree above. There is no sense of distinction. The same presence, the same grace was everywhere. His high, warm, subtle ether, he refound. This is what love found, that this is a place, this is being, this being can contain me. We use the word love very easily. We don't know how to love. We make divisions. But ether is spirit. Ether is not something that is the opposite of matter. Matter is also an expression of spirit. So when matter, the human nature, the human being or all beings manifest love, they should or they must express the spirit, which we have lost. But for the first time, he says, this is the being who can really transmit love, can contain love. His high, warm, subtle ether, he refound. And moved in her as in his natural home. In her, he met his own eternity. And so we know that Savitri is love. Mother is love. This poem is therefore basically a debate between love and that which cancels love, division, death. All division leads to opposition and therefore death. So, this is the essence of the poem, this is the issue. We do not know how to live in eternity, we do not know what is eternal love. It's not possible. We are small beings. We can't contain that love. We can't contain it, we have to become it. We have not yet become it. She is that. And therefore this is the central issue. It is a clash, like in all great epics, there has to be a conflict and a clash. This clash is between the embodied love, who is Savitri, and the incapacity to manifest that light and love forever, which therefore leads to dissolution and death. These are the two aspects. So here you have the central issue. Now he comes back to the narrative. Till then, no mournful line had barred this ray. So this goes back to the last line of the first canto, that this was the day when Satyavan must die. We go back to the story of Satyavan, and there is a kind of, she has the knowledge that Satyavan is the spirit, the soul that is emerging out of the clutches of matter, inconscience and inertia, and therefore death is there waiting for him. She knows, she has been told this by Narad. That is the reason why she has come. This is the soul of the earth. Satyavan is the soul of the earth. Earth is rising out of darkness towards light, but the power of darkness is very ancient, very strong, drags us down again and again. So Satyavan will not find it easy to break out of the clutches of death. Savitri realizes She has come down to deliver earth from darkness and death. And that is the symbol of Satyavan. Now she knows, because in her own personal life, she had never known pain. Right from her earliest childhood, she had grown up in beauty, love, joy. Everything around her was harmony, outward, inward. The ego was not there. Everything was therefore an expression of delight. Therefore, till then, no mournful line had barred this ray. Savitri is a ray of the sun. It's a projection of light. No darkness had touched her until then. On the frail breast of this precarious earth, since her orbed sight in its breath-fastened house, opening in sympathy with happier stars, where life is not exposed to sorrowful change, remembered beauty death-claimed lids ignore, and wondered at this world of fragile forms, carried on canvas strips of shimmering time. The impunity of unborn mites was hers. That's the main clause. The impunity, that is absence of punishment. Punishment comes because of error. The gods are perfect, they are eternal, unborn. Therefore, in their nature, because they are perfect, they are not really subjected to pain, and therefore no death for them. She too had never been subjected to pain. Unborn is also a term used for the gods, ajata, not born, eternal, infinite. She was one of them. The rest of the sentence is that this eternal being has put on a temporal body and a temporal form, may be too mighty, too strong for the earth field. So on the frail breast of this precarious earth, that's perhaps why we cannot really hold on to all the grace that is given to us. There is an incapacity in us that breaks down, not under the pressure of pain, but also the pressure of too much love or joy. So much has been given to us by the mother, for instance, so that we tend to take it for granted after a while. We can't hold on to the intensity of the experience. There is something weak that is incapable of holding on to that strength and the power that is given. Ever since her orbed sight, which is her human vision, orbed sight in the image of her eyes, ever since she opened her eyes in its breath-fastened house, her eyes opened in her body, that is to say, she has put on a human body. Her eyes opened in this world of material existence. But there is always that sense of being, especially in the early years, Mother talks of the experiences often, of feeling that what is this? What are these things that people do? Why do they give importance to such small things like the early pictures of the mother that were taken when she was 4 years old and 3 years old, and they were dressing her up to be photographed. She allowed it, but she found it very odd, very strange. Why do people give value to these things? She felt it was something alien to her nature. She permitted it. Or when her father wanted her to go to this circus, she would sometimes go because she didn't want to hurt him. But she always had better things to do because she was actually living in a different, experiencing the descent of her consciousness, sitting quietly in her room, a little child. So it is something that though she was a child, as Sri Aurobindo says, she was above the human even in childhood. Though she had put on a human body, she was not exactly like others. She felt a little separate. She was, even her companions, her friends, when they made fun of her, when her father lost his money, she found it very strange. Why do people give importance to these things? So, because she was as if part of another world, opening in sympathy with happier stars. She was part of the world of light. Stars are really embodiments of light. They don't transmit light, they are light. So she was light, she was truth, she was joy. And here in our lives, we try sometimes to make our life better. We try to transmit some knowledge, some love, some progress. But she was on another level. But her sweetness and her kindness allowed men to make her take part in things that we human beings give value to. Because she came from a world where life is not exposed to sorrowful change. Earthly life is change. There are two factors. One is constancy and one is change. The eternal is constant, absolute. Man is relative, therefore in him everything is bound to change. We rise in order to fall. We fall, that fall becomes, and should be so, an opportunity to rise again. So this rising and falling, which is the pattern of existence, the waves come up, the waves go down, whereas she belonged to a world of perfection, of light, of truth. So there was a kind of feeling a little alien to this world. So where life is not exposed to sorrowful change, remembered beauty death claimed lids ignore. She never lost touch with the source from which or of which she is a projection. The sun's ray is a projection of the sun's light. Savitri is the projection of the sun's light. The sun is the symbol of the supreme truth, the highest supreme truth. And she never lost touch with that. And therefore she wondered at this world of fragile forms. We have that in Mother's pictures also. She's a sense of being surprised at the way people are and behave. We still do. We give so much importance to temporary things. We forget about the things that really matter. The small becomes the big, the vast is forgotten. It has gone into the infinite, and we are finite. Carried on canvas strips of shimmering time. So you have so many images and metaphors. Time is itself a field of experience. All experience is in space and time. Beyond space and time is the transcendent, the absolute. Time is a projection in which all creation moves. We not only live in time, we live in small fragments of time. So the image, the projection of manifestation is like a painting that is done on a canvas. And not even the whole painting, we see only fragments. And this is canvas strips of shimmering time. Sometimes it is happy, sometimes it is unhappy. The colors change. Color is multiplicity, diversity. So we are so carried away by things that rise and fall and change and happen. We have lost touch with the totality of the truth. But she is the truth. Therefore, she is quite unlike the others. The impunity of unborn mites was hers. Although she leaned to bear the human load, her walk kept still the measures of the gods. Yes, she put on a human body. She took up the charge, like as mother took up the charge of the ashram, and took part in all the activities of the ashram. And those of us who have grown up with her, remember how fast she walked. She was tireless from morning to night. It was something that one has to have seen to believe. It was very difficult also to walk with her. When she walked, she was walking very, very fast. So here there's an image, the measures, the rhythms of tirelessness, of perfection, of energy, of power. So love is power. Power is knowledge. All three are one. She knows why she has come. She knows who she is. She has the strength to manifest that because she is the power of manifestation, of change, which is really the divine love and grace. Her walk kept still the measures of the gods. Earth's breath had failed to stain that brilliant glass. That is us. We are also expressions of the divine. But breath in the sense of impurity, imperfection, which leads to death. It's like holding up a glass in front of a person, and if his breath stains the glass, he is alive. The vital, the earthly experiences are still there. Her glass was never stained. She took part in the earthly life, but the glass remained transparent. We are not transparent. One of Mother's descriptions of the word transparent is also sincerity. Utter sincerity, utter purity, utter transparency, they are one and the same. We are actually utter nothing. We are all mixed. All different elements are part of our beings. There is the high, there is the low, there is the mixed. There are simultaneously something in me can aspire and something in me can refuse to aspire. So there is the complexity which really makes change very, very slow. In her, this complexity was not there. It was total, sincere, transparent. Unsmeared with the dust of our mortal atmosphere, it still reflected heaven's spiritual joy. Whatever she was, she reflected heaven's beauty, heaven's delight. All we need to do is, for instance, look at the photographs and look at these eyes. And if there is a little receptivity, we can be transported through those eyes to another world of experience. If we can be open. Nothing in her was cut off from the origin. Even though she put on a human body, she did it knowingly. Even in the inconscient, this is the whole secret of involution. The Supreme Divine Mother comes down into the darkness in order to churn the darkness and raise it out of darkness towards light. So this is the descent of the grace. The grace remains the grace. The Mother is always there. She comes down into the darkness and raises up the world of impurity, imperfection in which we are, to lift us up out of our littleness towards something greater. And in one of Mother's entretiens, she explains this also, that if the Divine only gave us teachings and wisdom and the knowledge of what is the world of light, we would always say, you are up there and we are down below. How can we rise up to your height? So the avatar comes down into our world, puts on a human nature, puts on the human body, moves up the incline and says, see, this is the way to climb. I am doing it. I am like you. I have put on a human body, and if I can go up the incline, so can you. But this is not something that cancels her divinity. It is a choice she has made to put on humanity. Although she leaned to bear the human load, her walk kept still the measures of the gods. Earth's breath had failed to stain that brilliant glass, unsmeared with the dust of our mortal atmosphere. It still reflected heaven's spiritual joy. There was no opposition. In us there is always opposition. In her there was none. Almost they saw, who lived within her light, her playmate in the sempiternal spheres, descended from its unattainable realms in her attractive advent's luminous wake, the white fire dragon bird of endless bliss, drifting with burning wings above her days. Heaven's tranquil shield guarded the missioned child. This goes back to the first line of the section. Till then, no mournful line had barred this ray. No pain, no weeping, no suffering. It is as if there is a protection that was over her, heaven's shield of tranquility, of light, of power, guarded her for the mission for which she had come. What was that shield? It's a beautiful description. The white fire dragon bird. Dragon is an embodiment of enormous energy. There is the dark dragon, there is the golden dragon, there is the white dragon, as he says. White is integral, pure, perfect, endless bliss. The white fire dragon bird of endless bliss. That was there, always over her, protecting her. It is her playmate from its unattainable realms. So she has come from the infinite, that protection of joy, of grace came down with her. In her attractive Advent's luminous wake. Wake is the line of white line that when a boat cuts through the water, it draws a line of foam that is called wake. So where she came, this bird came behind her. It's not a bird, it is a dragon, but a marvelous force of power. Advent was also used for coming, but usually the coming of something, not just the coming of a human being, the coming of something divine, something spiritual. So in her coming, when she came down, it's made very, very clear that this central character, the protagonist of the story, is a divine being, and with her she has brought down the power of the divine change and divine force and protection. So therefore, now her story, a glowing orbit was her early term. This is her childhood. That is why till then no mournful line had barred this ray. Her childhood was absolutely filled with love, with joy, with purity, undisturbed by pain. She never allowed any kind of suffering to touch her. And then in the next line, you can just remember her mother's early pictures, full of not just beautiful, but there is something else. Sweetness, divinity, years like gold raiment of the gods that pass. Mother as a 4-year-old, mother as a 7-year-old, mother as a 10-year-old. There are beautiful pictures. You see that they are like manifestations of perfection, of beauty, of strength. Her youth, so the childhood, the girlhood, and then the young person. Her youth sat throned in calm felicity. But, and now the whole sense of the drama, because there has to be conflict, if there has to be brought about a great new manifestation, the past will fight. She has come to bring a new age, the old age is going to fight. And this is the opposition. But joy cannot endure until the end. There is a darkness in terrestrial things that will not suffer long, too glad a note. Suffer is also permit, allow. If she has come down onto the earth field, she cannot remain immune to all that the earth has to offer. If she remains totally different from, fundamentally she is different, or we are different actually, we are also divine, but we have lost touch with that. We have forgotten that. We have cut ourselves from that. So she has entered into our world, and therefore in the terrestrial world there is a kind of separation from the heavenly world. Heaven is a world of pure light. Here is the world of duality, where there is darkness as well as light. So since she has come into this world of the earth experience, there is a darkness that is there, and she has to be touched by that darkness. Otherwise, her guidance will not be something that we can really be helped by. She will remain somebody perfect, we are imperfect, and the distance between us will always remain. She has come down near us, so she has become, for a while, she has come to experience, to share into our experience, enter into our world, and therefore on her too closed the inescapable hand, the grasp that destroys, that breaks, that harms. She too was touched by that. The armed immortal bore the snare of time. Time, Kala, is one of the names of death. The immortal had to face the opposition of death. One dealt with her who meets the burdened great. And this is also a very significant line. those who are meant for great realizations, those who have great possibilities, have also great difficulties. The greater your possibility, the greater the difficulty. The lesser the possibility, the lesser the difficulty. If I'm just a little insect, my aim is just to survive, to find food and to survive. But if I'm not only an insect, because we all are insects somewhere, but I have other dreams, other hopes, other aspirations, each dream, each hope, each aspiration will have its negative side. So the greater the attempt, the greater the difficulty. She has come down with this dream of establishing a new age. The past will automatically resist. There is always resistance. It cannot rise without resistance. So on her too closed the inescapable hand. The armed immortal bore the snare of time. So death came to hinder her. One dealt with her who meets the burdened great. A signer of the ordeal and the path. One, this is the divine. The other aspect of the divine, who is also the one who works out the process. There are so many aspects of the divine. One is that power that works out a new manifestation. Just like building a new house. It has to go through all its difficulties, have to pass through problems. It's not something that goes up automatically. So here, a signer of the ordeal and the path, it's a divine wisdom who gives to each a certain function, a certain fate, a destiny, and the way to fulfill that destiny, the path, who chooses in this holocaust of the soul, death, fall, and sorrow as the spirit's goads. The dubious Godhead with his torch of pain lit up the chasm of the unfinished world and called her to fill with her vast self the abyss. So this is her role. He is the assigner who chooses death, fall, sorrow as the spirit's goads. The goad is that which pushes. If you have an elephant, if you have a bullock, it doesn't want to move easily. You have to goad, you have to push. There is resistance. Therefore, the soul, which is eternal and divine, has entered into the world of matter. The laws of matter is based on inertia, resistance. To break that law and emerge back into the light. This is our role. We have come down into but we have to lift the whole being of matter, which contains the light. Body contains the light. Life contains the light. Mind contains the light. But we are all in little fragments. We have to become embodiments of the soul. That is the holocaust. It has come down. The soul is not distinct from the body. At present, it seems to be so. I have a soul and I have a body, life, mind, and the two are not in connection with each other. But if I can become one harmonious being, harmony is one of the central principles of the supramental. Body, life, mind, spirit, they are all part of the one. The one is the multiple. The multiplicity is the one. So all this is not easy. So there is suffering. There has to be struggle, effort. Sadhana is effort. The word itself means effort. But while you suffer, you often feel that the one who is making you suffer, you might not like to call that one the divine. So the dubious Godhead. You say, why is the divine, why is the mother making me go through all these difficulties? We don't realize that unless we go through the difficulties, we can never emerge on the other side. We can't grow out of our littleness. Is it easy for the seed to break out of the darkness to become a plant? We don't realize how much effort is put into that seed. It has to push its way out of thick layers of mud and soil and emerge into the sunlight. For us, it's much more complex. All possibilities are there, but they have to emerge. And there has to be struggle. But while the struggle lasts, we don't always consider it a grace, but it is. And therefore, we realize we are unfinished beings. We are transitional beings. We are not complete. We have to work our way out of our present state to something other. And called her, this God, to fill with her vast self the abyss. This God is love. And it is this power that made her come down into the darkness. So her descent, her incarnation into the darkness, always climbing from darkness to light. That is the journey. Someone has to show the way. She is the one who came for that. This God, therefore, has to be pitiless. Because if somebody is very kind to you and is gentle with you, he allows you to accept your weaknesses and says, all right, I'll make everything all right for you. You don't have to suffer, you don't have to struggle. Then you remain the same. But he, this supreme power, which may seem sometimes unkind, is really essentially the expression of grace. But he is august and pitiless in his calm outlook, heightening the eternal's dreadful strategy. He measured the difficulty with the might. That is the thing. The difficulty is in proportion with the possibilities that are there, which are capable of emerging into the sunlight. All possibilities are there, but there are some which are closer to the surface. They have to emerge. But even that emergence is always against resistance. So the difficulty is in proportion to the capacity, the possibility, the strength. So power is there. Sincerity is power. Aspiration is power. From below, this has to be there. From above, the call, the grace. From below, the aspiration. When this is there, a new manifestation can take place. So, august and pitiless in his calm outlook, heightening the eternal's dreadful strategy. It's like a battle, so strategy is required for battles. Sometimes we don't understand that without fighting you cannot win. You have to fight in order to win a victory. He measured the difficulty with the might and dug more deep the gulf that all must cross. Eventually all. Change will come eventually to all. That is one of Mother's New Year messages that say a day will come when even the most hostile will have to accept the manifestation of the supermind and open to it. But there will be hostility, there will be refusal, there will be disbelief for a long, long time. assailing her divinest elements. Her divinest element is love. So the attack will come where she loves. And therefore the attack is on Satyavan. Assailing her divinest elements, he made her heart kin to the striving human heart and forced her strength to its appointed road. That is the purpose of her embodiment. I think it's a bit strong, so let's stop here.